Ngozi, have you heard that tomorrow is the new Yam Festival? So sad you wouldn't be present to enjoy the festival.
What do you mean?
I must be there. Oh. This year's new Yam Festival, the Agaba Masquerade will be present. And so, you are pregnant, Ngozi. Do you want to be punished by the gods?
A pregnant woman should not see the masquerade.
Says who? And what will happen? Please, this is 2026 and this is not an African folktale story.
Yeah.
Please stay indoors. These are serious traditions of this village. Your husband will probably tell you too.
Don't say I didn't tell you.
Among the Igbo people, there is a rule no pregnant woman dares ignore. Stay away from the masquerades. They say these masked figures aren't just performers. They carry something older, something powerful. And if a pregnant woman sees one, especially the feared Agaba masquerade, the consequences may begin long before anyone notices. Because in some stories, what is seen cannot be unseen. The sun had barely settled into the late afternoon sky when the sharp echoing sound of the town crier's gong cut through the village air. Children stopped their games, women paused through mid-conversation. Even the elders settled beneath the ancient Udara tree, lifted their heads slowly. The town crier moved steadily along the dusty paths, his voice rising and falling with urgency. Tomorrow is the day of Iri Ji, the New Yam Festival. A wave of excitement spread quickly across the village. It was the most anticipated celebration of the year, a time of thanksgiving, feasting, and honoring the land. But the town crier did not stop there. His voice changed. There is a warning. The air seemed to tighten. All the pregnant women must remain indoors. No stepping outside, no looking through the windows, no peeping through the doors. A few murmurs rippled through the crowd. The Agaba masquerade will walk the land. Silence. Those who knew understood. Those who didn't quickly learned from expressions on other people's faces. Any woman who disobeys will face the consequences. This time, no one spoke. The message had landed. Inside her home, Ngozi sat quietly, one hand resting on her large belly. At 8 months pregnant, her movements were slower, her breaths were deeper, but her mind remained sharp. She had heard everything, and yet she frowned slightly. To her, it sounded like one of those old beliefs people held on to without question. Stories passed down from generations wrapped in fear to enforce disobedience. Seeing a masquerade could harm an unborn child? It didn't make sense. Still, she said nothing. That evening, when her husband returned, the warning was the first thing he mentioned. His voice was calm but firm. Tomorrow, you must not step outside. Do not even look through the window. Ngozi nodded, though her eyes revealed doubt. He noticed. He didn't argue. Instead, he repeated it more seriously. Promise me. This time, she agreed. The night passed peacefully, but by morning, the village had transformed. Drums, laughter, movements, celebration. The New Yam Festival had begun. Ngozi remained inside, just as promised. She moved slowly around the house, listening to different sounds of joy. At some point, the quiet warmth of the room pulled her into sleep. But outside, something else had begun. The drums changed, slower, heavier, more deliberate. The Agaba masquerade had entered the village, and with it, a presence that many respected and others feared. Unaware, Ngozi slept on, resting in a silence that wouldn't last for long. Ngozi woke up with a slow stretch, her hand resting on her belly. For a moment, everything felt normal. The room was calm. The air was still. But then she heard it, the drums. Not the cheerful rhyme of celebration from earlier. These were different, deep, steady, almost commanding. Each beat seemed to travel through the ground itself, reaching her before the sound fully formed in her ears. She sat up. The sound was getting closer. Voices followed. Low chants, distant but growing clearer. Feet shuffled in unison. Something about the rhythm made her heart beat a little faster, though she couldn't explain why. Then she remembered the warning, the Agaba masquerade. Ngozi exhaled softly and shook her head. It's just people in costumes, she muttered under her breath. trying to dismiss the unease creeping in her chest. Still, the sound didn't feel ordinary. Curiosity began to stir. She stood up carefully, adjusting her wrapper, and paced the small room. The drums were louder now, right outside the compound or very close to it. Her eyes drifted towards the window. She stopped. Her husband's voice echoed in her memory. "Do not even look through the window." She turned away immediately, almost as if she had been caught doing something wrong. But the silence inside the house felt heavier now, pressing against her curiosity. What could be so dangerous about looking? She reasoned with herself. After all, she wouldn't go outside. She wouldn't speak to anyone. She would only take a quick glance, just to satisfy her curiosity. Nothing more. The drums continued. Each beat seemed to pull her closer to the window. Ngozi hesitated again, placing her hand on her belly, as if speaking reassurance. "I won't look for long," she whispered. Slowly, almost cautiously, she stepped towards the window. Her heart was beating faster now, not out of fear, but out of anticipation. The kind that comes when someone is about to break a rule they didn't believe in. She reached the window, paused, then peeped. At first, she only saw movement, colors, shadows, people shifting aside. Then the figure appeared. The Agaba masquerade, tall, commanding, draped in layers that moved with a strange, almost unnatural rhythm. Its presence was different from the others she had seen during past festivals. There was something heavy about it, something that made the air feel thick. Men followed behind, beating drums and chanting, their eyes focused. Ngozi leaned closer. She could have pulled away, but she didn't. Her curiosity had turned into fascination. She watched as the masquerade moved past her compound, each step deliberate, each motion precise. It didn't look towards her window. It didn't pause. And yet, something about it felt aware. Minutes passed, longer than she had intended, long enough for the rule to be broken completely. Finally, the sound began to fade. The drums softened. The chant disappeared into distance. The moment was over. Ngozi stepped back from the window, her heart still racing slightly. She waited, listening. Nothing happened. No sudden change, no strange feeling, no sign of consequence. She looked around her room, let out a small laugh. So this is what everyone was afraid of, eh? She shook her head, almost amused. It's just a superstition. Relief washed over her. The tension she didn't realize she had been holding disappeared. She sat down, resting against the chair, convinced that nothing had changed. But as the day moved on, the festival slowly came to an end. Something unseen had already begun, and Ngozi had no idea. By the time evening settled, the village had returned into its usual calm. The drums had faded, the laughter had thinned, and the celebration of the New Year festival had slowly dissolved into quiet conversations and tired footsteps heading home. Ngozi moved about the house as if nothing had happened. When her husband returned, dust still clinging to his feet, his first instinct was to look at her carefully, almost searching. She greeted him with a smile. He hesitated before asking the question that had been sitting heavily on his mind all day. "Did you step outside?" Ngozi didn't pause. She nodded. "I didn't go outside." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. He studied her face for a longer moment, then exhaled and relaxed slightly. Whatever tension he carried seemed to ease, though not completely. That night, Ngozi slept peacefully. No strange feelings, no sign of anything unusual. It was enough to convince her even more that the warnings had been exaggerated. But the following night, everything changed. It started like a normal dream. Ngozi found herself standing in an open space she couldn't recognize. The air felt thick, almost still, and the ground beneath her feet didn't feel entirely solid. Then she heard it. The drums. Slow, deep, familiar. Her chest tightened. From a distance, a figure appeared. The Agaba masquerade, moving towards her. Ngozi tried to step back, but her feet couldn't move. She was frozen by fear, yet she couldn't leave. As the masquerade came closer, she noticed something that made her heart pound harder. It was holding a child. Her breath caught. The child looked small, fragile, and for reasons she couldn't explain, she knew exactly who it was, her unborn child. The masquerade began to move in circles, almost dancing, the drums echoing with every step. The child remained in its arms, swaying gently with the motion. Ngozi wanted to scream. She wanted to run. She wanted to reach out, but she could do nothing. Then suddenly, she woke up. Her body was covered in sweat, her breathing uneven. She sat up quickly, holding her belly tightly, as if to confirm her child was still there. Everything was quiet. It was just a dream. That's what she told herself. But the next night it happened again, and the night after. Each time the dream became clearer. Sometimes she saw the masquerade carrying her child, moving in the same slow, deliberate dance. Other times she saw herself standing beside it, dancing, not out of joy, but as if she had no control. The drums were always there, louder now, closer. With every passing night, Ngozi's fear grew. Sleep was no longer a place of rest. It became something she dreaded. Her body weakened, her mind restless. Even during the day, she found herself drifting, replaying the images she couldn't forget. Eventually, the fear became too heavy to carry alone. She told her husband. At first, he didn't speak. He just stared at her. Shock, fear, anger, all of it flashed across his face at once. You looked, didn't you? Ngozi couldn't deny it anymore. She nodded slowly. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything she had experienced before. He stood up immediately. We are going to see the native doctor. The urgency in his voice left no room for argument. The next morning, they made their way to the edge of the village, where the native doctor lived, a place many only visited when things had already gone too far. The old man listened carefully, his expression unreadable. When Ngozi finished, he sighed deeply. There are things, he said slowly, that are meant not to be tested. A ritual was prepared. Things were gathered, simple, traditional things, including native eggs and other symbolic offerings meant to restore balance and seek forgiveness. The process was quiet, serious. Every step carried weight. Ngozi sat still through it all, her heart filled with regret. But when it was over, the native doctor's face did not change. They came too late, he said. The words landed like stone. Ngozi felt a cold wave move around her. For the first time, she truly understood. Some traditions were not just stories, and some warnings were never meant to be ignored. From that day on, a quiet fear settled into Ngozi's life like a shadow that refused to leave. The dreams did not stop. If anything, they grew stronger. Each night, the drums returned, louder, closer, almost as if they were no longer coming from a distant place, but from somewhere within her own world. The Agaba masquerade appeared more clearly now, no longer a blurred figure in the distance, but a presence that felt near, too near. Some nights it stood still, watching. Other nights it moved slowly around her, as though waiting. And always there was a child, her child. Ngozi stopped sleeping properly. Even during the day, she felt the weight of those dreams pressing against her thoughts. Her laughter faded, her strength weakened. What she once dismissed as superstition had now become something she could not escape. Her husband stayed close, doing everything he could to comfort her. But fear had already taken root in him too. He blamed himself for not insisting harder, for trusting her answer that day. Time passed slowly. Then the pains began. At first they were mild, just enough to make her pause and hold her belly. But soon they became stronger, more frequent, more demanding. Labor had started. Word spread quickly, and experienced women in the village came to assist. They prepared everything, speaking softly, moving carefully. But something about Ngozi's labor felt different. It was long, unusually long. Hours stretched into what felt like endless time. The pain came in waves that refused to settle, each one stronger than the last. Ngozi held on, breathing, pushing, trying to endure, but the process dragged on far beyond what anyone expected. The room grew tense. Whispers began. Outside, the air was still. Inside, Ngozi fought through every moment, her strength fading, her mind drifting in and out of focus. And in those moments, she heard it again. The drums, faint but unmistakable. Tears slipped from her eyes, not just from the pain, but from the realization that settled deep within her. This wasn't ordinary. It was the consequence that she had laughed at. The hours passed. Then, finally, a cry, soft at first, but real. The room shifted instantly. Relief spread across every face. The tension broke. The women exchanged glances of quiet gratitude. Ngozi had given birth. Exhausted, she lay still, her breathing heavy, her body drained. They placed the baby beside her, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. She looked at her child, alive, safe, and yet the weight of everything she had experienced did not lift completely, because she knew, she understood now in a way she had never before. Not every tradition is empty. Not every warning is meant to scare. Some exist because someone somewhere once learned the hard way. Days later, as Ngozi slowly regained her strength, she spoke less, listened more. The confidence she once had in dismissing old beliefs had changed into something quieter, something more cautious. She didn't need anyone to remind her anymore. She had seen enough. And though life in the village returned to normal, the story of what happened to Ngozi did not fade. It became one of those stories told carefully, almost in hushed tones, especially when the New Year festival approached again. A reminder, a warning, because in some traditions, curiosity is not harmless, and some things once seen stay with you forever. The end.